This is Mario Andretti, and you are listening to Below the Yellow Line.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Below the Line. Today, we welcome IndyCar driver Christian Lundgaard to the show, fresh off the season opener in St. Petersburg. Christian, thank you so much for joining the show. How are you doing tonight?
Good, thank you. No, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to have you on the show. Jumping right in here, finished P20 at St. Petersburg. Maybe not the result you were most hoping for. Of course, everybody wants to be in victory circle at the end of the day, but you still fought hard all day, overcame some early issues. What are your overall impressions of the opening weekend of 2024?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think it was that bad of a weekend in terms of what it shows on paper. I think there was moments of shine for sure. Um, and in the end, with how the IndyCar races work out, you need to be on the right end of strategy, especially with a late caution. And in the end, the race was kind of done on lap one with the puncture. We knew that from the beginning, even going into the race, that if there was any sort of situation where we had to pit within the first 10 laps, we needed luck to be on our side to even have a decent result. So, obviously with that happening on lap one, we knew that we had to try to be bold on strategy at the end to try to create something, which is why we pitted so early for the last stint to see if we could create a chain of pit stops, and maybe hope for a caution for everybody to pit on. So we were at the at least the same sort of strategy, and we're on the same fuel mileage, which didn't happen, of course. In the end, if that would have come out, we would have had track position, and everybody would have had to save as much fuel as we would. So it didn't happen. We took the decision to try to win the race rather than finish 16th, and we finished 20th, obviously, because we had to pit again. But it's it is how it is. We're looking forward for thermal, which I think is going to be one hell of a weekend for sure.
Yeah, hey, I mean, you fought all day, and I love that you said you're going for the win. I'm with you. I'd rather go for the win than go for 16th. Might as well, right? I mean, nothing to lose. First race of the year, and you spoke a little bit about thermal. How are you feeling going into that race? $1 million on the line. I don't know about you. That sounds like a whole lot of money to me. Sure would be nice to have that in my pocket. What are you and your team's expectations heading into that event?
I mean, we know that as a team we're fast at thermal, so I'm pretty excited going there. We showed a lot of pace at the open test last year. The 45 car was pretty flying, which was obviously awesome. It was the first test of the year last year, first time in the car. So obviously that brings a lot of optimism going into the race. Whenever it was announced that we were going to do this $1 million challenge at thermal, we kind of raised our arms above our heads, because we knew that was a track and a place that we knew that we were going to be competitive at. So, with that on the line, I think we're all pretty excited. Obviously as a team, but I think all drivers are. I think it's a cool opportunity, but at the same time a pretty awesome project, and something new. But at the same time, I do also think that we want to race for points. That's what we're here for as well. So I think it's going to be an interesting event. Luckily, we do get a couple of days of testing before, as an open test, which I think will be positive for us as well. We're one race down. We got thermal to go until we head to the second race.
Well, it's great that you have that chance. Great that you feel like you're fast too, and you sound like you got a good chance to win that $1 million. For the rest of us, the best chance we have to win that kind of money is go play the lottery. So, I mean, to feel like you and your team have a good shot at that, that must be a good feeling. And just for the race in general, right? Too. You talked about racing for points. It's good you feel like that. Good you have that extra practice time as well. We've talked about the present so far on this show, but I want to go a couple years to the past. You won Rookie of the Year in 2022 in IndyCar, one of the premier racing leagues in the world. What was that feeling? What was that phone call, that email? What was that like, knowing that you were Rookie of the Year, knowing that you've made it in this sport?
Honestly, I think obviously it being decided in Laguna Seca, in 2022, the last race of the season. We didn't qualify very well for the race. I actually think we were faster on the primes than we were on the alternate tires, which was obviously a big problem, I would say, not being able to extract time on the alternate tires. So I think we qualified 16th, and I think David was in the Fast Six, which I was fighting with in for the Rookie of the Year title. But we ended up having a really, really good race car, and we were really competitive in the race. We weren't lucky on strategy, but we fought our way forward, and I think we finished the race 5th. So we did it on track, and I think that's what I was most proud of throughout that season, getting my first podium at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What a place to do that as well, which is where I did my debut exactly a year earlier in 2021. So I think there's a lot of shine and a lot of unfinished business for me around IMS. Not so much at the Speedway yet, but obviously I hope I get to nail that the one time I have the opportunity to at least fight for a good result. But it's whenever I kind of realized that the championship was finished in Laguna in 2022. Obviously, I was just happy. I was first of all just happy that the season was done, because it was a very compact season, and it is every year. But finishing on top, I think, is always good. You get one chance at winning the rookie championship, so getting it done was pretty special.
Get to put yourself on a list along with some very special drivers, and you also got to do that last year. You follow up your Rookie of the Year season in 2022. You go out there, and not only do you win in Toronto, you decimate the field. What was that whole race like? Because, I mean, like I said, this wasn't like you won with a last lap pass on fuel strategy. You whipped those guys in Toronto. What was that race like? What was running through your head on the last lap, as you had, I think, a 10-second lead over the second place car?
Yeah, I think it was 14. I think something like that. But no, I think the one thing I did think about most of that race was it was super chaotic. Overall, we had some yellows in moments. We certainly didn't want yellows. I knew that the pace was there, and I knew the performance was there from everybody on the stand and strategy calls. But I do remember the last yellow that came out when we were all sort of, I think it was when Grosjean crashed. That was what kind of started it all. Some people took that yellow, and we knew it was going to be tough on fuel from there. So we stayed out. And then the next yellow, we ended up taking the decision to pit, which actually I think was the safety car restart of the Grosjean yellow. And we took the decision to come in, and McLaughlin didn't. And, in the end, now that we're talking about strategy, especially from St. Petersburg this weekend, was I think Scott knew that he wasn't going to beat us on pure pace, so they had to try something else to win the race. Obviously, it didn't work out for them. But it's the same mentality that we had in St. Petersburg this weekend, because we knew the race was done for us unless something lucky happened. But yeah, I mean, winning the race, winning my first one, I think is what basically every driver dreams of whenever they get into the series. Get that first one, and then they're going to come continuously after that. They haven't yet, unfortunately, but we've shown a lot of pace and a lot of potential.
Absolutely. Always great to get that first one off your back, get that monkey off your back, and then, you're free. You got that pressure off your back. You can win. The fans, all the media people, they know you can win, and it's all about stacking those trophies from there. And one trophy that I think every single race car driver, from, a random short track out in the middle of nowhere to guys like you racing in IndyCar, want is that not Brickyard. I'm sorry. I'm a NASCAR guy. I just think I think Brickyard 400, Indianapolis 500 trophy. The greatest spectacle in racing. It's the greatest race in the world, one of the greatest sporting events in the world, and you have the distinct honor of being the first ever Danish-born driver to run in that race. Not only did you get to run in the Indy 500, which is something that only a few select people have ever done, you got to be the first driver from your home country to run in that race. Kind of talk us through the emotions of running your first Indy 500 and maybe what it meant to be the first Danish-born IndyCar driver to run at Indy.
Yeah, I will say I am the first Dane to have done a lot of things in IndyCar. But I think to obviously compete in the 500, I think is the pinnacle of that. The top, probably the one I'm the most proud of, because that's, in the end, it's something that can't be changed. We obviously hope that we can, at least that I can be the first winner, the Danish winner as well. That would be even better. But obviously the 2022 season, I think the race car in Texas, which was my first super speedway, the car was great. But we haven't had a very good oval car ever since that. We're moving in the right direction. A lot of preparations has been carried on throughout this winter for the 2024 season to make sure that we get back to where the team deserves to be. We don't just want to be competitive on road courses or win races at street circuits. We want to compete for an Indy 500. And bringing Takuma in this year, I think, is going to be a big benefit for us. Obviously, he was the last Indy 500 winner for Rahal, so there's a lot of history there. He's gonna be a tough guy to beat within the team. But I think from the history perspective of being the first Dane, I don't really think think of that as much as I probably should. There hasn't been a lot of media coverage about it either, other than basically what I made them aware of myself. But I do think that the sport in the international countries is growing because of the huge interest from the drivers being here as well. There's for sure more that can be done to improve the coverage, but I think it's moving in the right direction.
Well, that's great. Great that you were able to make history. And you talk about bringing in a guy like Takuma Sato, a former Indy 500 winner. Do you lean on him, or do you look at him as a competitor? Do you look at him as a guy that, hey, he could be my mentor. I could take notes off him. What is that dynamic like between y'all, especially as the Indy 500 approaches and gets closer day by day? We're just a little over 2 months away. How are you going to look at each other? Are you going to look at each other as rivals, or as guys you can lean on each other and take some notes from?
I mean, I do think that having a fourth car come in, it's gonna create a lot of distractions, as it is a basically a new crew that needs to come in, and it's gonna fill a lot of space. But we have four cars for the 500, obviously to try to help each other. We need to bring the team forward, and we're bringing a very experienced driver in that has won it twice. And is going for his third, but at the same time, he has a lot of experience. He has a lot of knowledge. He's very intelligent, and he's very fast. And I think with the improvements that we are making to the car, bringing him in, I only think is going to expedite the process and the progress from the three other cars, and obviously for him to bring something on the table from the driver's perspective.
I don't know what I would do if I just saw him walk into the office one day. I mean, I'm sure you've won in IndyCar. You're more experienced than I am, and seeing guys like that walk around the garage. But I feel like I'd be too scared to go up and ask him for notes. But that's just me. I'm a little more timid than some of you guys are. Looking ahead for the rest of the season here, you said you're focused on points. What are your expectations for the rest of the season? Where do you think this 45 team could be, points-wise, or maybe race wins-wise? Just what are your expectations overall for you and your race team for the rest of the 2024 season?
I think there's a lot to come for us. I think we've been patient. We've been competitive at times. There's certain tracks that we have a lot of unfinished business at that we want to execute at. Where I feel like if not wins, at least podiums have slipped away from us. For things in or out of our control. There's so many races and so many tracks from the past 2 years where we've had so much potential and not really gotten a result out of it, which is super annoying when you see Alex Palou. Everything that's, yes, he's very complete, he's very fast and very competitive, but how he manages to get away with a result every time is what surprises me, and I think it annoys everybody on the whole grid. to be honest, because Nashville a couple of years back, we were fighting for basically second in the race, and he got a lucky yellow, I got a lucky yellow, but in the end he gets the result, and I'm nowhere in the end. So, you know, to say it straight, it pisses me off. But I think there's a lot of drivers, you know, that's creates the luck for themselves, and we haven't been on that side. And I think for the 2024 season, we're in a different mental state. You know, our view and our mental preparations are in a different place than they've been previously, and we're at peace, but we're very, very determined of making things happen this year.
It's a great mindset to have. You sound confident. You sound fast. Can't wait to see you out here in a couple of weeks out there in sunny Southern California. Christian, thank you so much for joining the show, and we wish you and your race team the best of luck for 2024 and beyond.
Thank you.